The sun hung high in the sky, casting warm rays on the bustling neighborhood, yet the atmosphere crackled with tension. In the midground of a quiet sidewalk, an explosive confrontation unfolded. The middle-aged woman, clad in a sharp gray blazer and tailored black pants, punctuated her words with vigorous hand gestures, her anger radiating like heat from the pavement. "You can't just barge into my life and think you own the place," she exclaimed, her voice piercing through the normally serene ambience. Her brow furrowed, emphasizing her frustration as she animatedly faced two muscular men flanking her. On her right, one of the men, standing over 6 feet tall, glared with a fierce intensity that made the hairs on the back of her neck prickle. He wore a loose-fitting, light-colored shirt, his arms crossed over his massive chest. To his left stood another equally imposing man, his expression a mix of annoyance and confusion as he listened intently to her vehement words. "Ma'am, we're not here to create trouble," he said, trying to maintain a calm demeanor despite her onslaught. "We just want to talk about the property. It's a misunderstanding that we can resolve." But she wasn't having any of it. "Misunderstanding? You crushed my fence. Your truck literally drove through it. This isn't just a mistake. It's negligence." With every emphatic word, the tension crackled. The young boy beside her, no more than 12 and of light complexion, leaned further toward his mother, worry etching his features. He swallowed hard, glancing up at her with a mix of admiration and anxiety. "Mom, maybe we should calm down," he whispered, but his soft voice was drowned out by the intensity of their exchange. The taller man scoffed, breaking his silence. "It was an accident, lady. You're overreacting. We'll take care of the fence. Just stop making a scene." Her eyes narrowed at the blatant dismissal. The side of her mouth twitched, as if she were about to retort, but she held back momentarily, catching her breath and considering her options. "This isn't just about the fence. This is about respect." The young boy shifted uncomfortably, sensing the rising conflict. "Maybe we should just go home, Mom," he suggested, his voice trembling slightly. "They said they'll fix the fence. Can't we just let it go?" The woman crouched down to his level, her fierce glare softening slightly. "Honey, if I let them walk all over us now, they'll think they can do whatever they want. People need to understand that you can't take advantage of others." Just then, a sudden shout broke the tension in the air. From across the street, another voice called out, "What's going on here?" A man emerged from a nearby house, his brow furrowed in concern. The muscular man's attention shifted for a fleeting moment as the newcomer approached. "I saw the whole thing. You wrecked that fence, and now you're acting like it's no big deal?" he accused, eyes darting pointedly between the men, pushing back against their authority. The first man, now visibly flustered, turned back. "This isn't your business. You don't know the situation." "Oh, I see just fine," the man shot back defiantly. "It's plain as day that you think you can bully your way out of this." The young boy, still sandwiched in the midst of the dispute, strained to grasp what was happening. His anxious eyes shifted from his mother to the two men and, finally, to the stranger stepping into the fray. He felt a surge of hope. Maybe they wouldn't have to handle this alone after all. As the debate intensified, Kathy felt an unexpected shift in the air. A pulse of determination surged within her, igniting a fierce need to protect her ground. "You need to understand that accountability matters," she said, her voice steadying, reassured by the neighbor's presence. "If you won't accept responsibility for what happened, I will make sure everybody knows about it." The tall man huffed. "You think you can scare us? You're just a—" "Enough," the man from across the street interrupted. "You're in the wrong here. You can't just throw your weight around because you think you can." For a moment, silence reigned as everyone processed the heated words. The very air seemed charged, thick with anticipation. Suddenly, with a glint of realization, Kathy narrowed her eyes at the men. "Why are you really here?" she pressed, lifting her chin defiantly. "This isn't just about the fence, and you know it. You came here for something else." The muscular men exchanged quick, furtive glances, an unspoken understanding passing between them that sent a spike of distrust coursing through Kathy's veins. The tension was now a tangible thing, wrapping around them and squeezing tight. "Maybe it's time you leave," the second man snarled, shifting his weight uncomfortably. "No," the boy piped up, taking a small step forward, emboldened by the growing attention. "You can't just intimidate us. I want to know why you're really here." A flicker of shock crossed the men's faces, but it was quickly masked by their hardened expressions. The boy's courage seemed to catch everyone off guard, the tension shifting once more, this time charged with an unexpected courage. "All right, you want to know?" The taller man stepped closer, lowering his voice as if to draw them into a web of confusion, his intention unclear. "Let's just say we don't want any drama. We have other plans for this neighborhood." Kathy's stomach twisted at the implication. The young boy's eyes widened with alarm, sensing he was standing at the precipice of something dangerous. "What plans?" Kathy demanded, unable to hide her unease. Suddenly, everything felt fragile. The sun shining down on them, the confusion swirling in the air, and the intensity of the moment seemed ready to ignite into something explosive. As the clouds gathered in the distance, shadowing the street just slightly, Kathy braced herself. This was only the beginning. "Who called you here?" she pressed, and with every critical second that passed, they all sensed that the stakes were much higher than just a broken fence. The muscular men shifted uneasily, realizing that this was no ordinary confrontation. This was about to escalate in ways nobody anticipated, and it might just change everything in the neighborhood. The tension hung thick in the air like a gathering storm, and Kathy felt her heart race as she stared down the two muscular men. Shadows danced over their faces, intertwining with the worry firing from the young boy beside her. "What plans?" she pressed again, her voice steady yet laced with concern. The taller man's expression hardened, his jaw clenched tight. "Let's just say it's not your business," he replied, attempting to backtrack, as if the words would douse the flames of suspicion swirling around them. The weight of his words, however, cast doubt in Kathy's mind. "Not our business?" the neighbor countered, stepping forward with unwavering resolve. "You're on our street, causing trouble. You can't just threaten people here." Kathy glanced at the boy, his eyes wide and filled with innocent fear, a reflection of her own rising anxiety. "We deserve to know what you're planning," she stated, her words holding the weight of 100 motherly instincts to protect and guard. The muscular men exchanged anxious glances again, and in that fleeting moment, Kathy could see a glimmer of uncertainty in their demeanor. But then, the smaller of the two shook his head, redirecting his focus. "We're not here to fight," he insisted, trying to sound calm, although his voice trembled slightly as he faced her. "We just thought it'd be easier if we handled things without drawing too much attention." "What could possibly need to be handled that involves tearing through someone's fence?" Kathy's voice dripped with skepticism. "Not to mention whatever other plans you have." Before they could respond, the crackling energy in the air was interrupted by the rumble of thunder in the distance, mirroring her building frustration. The boy leaned closer to Kathy, trying to gauge the situation. "I just want to go home," he whispered. Kathy knelt beside him, gently squeezing his shoulder. "I know, honey. I know. But we have to stand up to them," she replied quietly, her heart racing with dread. This wasn't just a dispute over property anymore. There was something lurking beneath the surface that made her skin crawl. "What you need to understand is that this neighborhood is changing," the second man finally snapped, his patience unraveling. "And those who don't get with the program, well, let's just say they could end up hurt." The shock of his words reverberated through Kathy like a cold wave. "What do you mean?" she demanded, her voice rising defensively, but the boy gripped her arm tighter, sensing the danger behind their brutal honesty. "Let's not escalate things, all right?" the friendly neighbor offered, trying to maintain a calm presence amid the storm brewing outside. "You guys need to leave before we call the police. This isn't how you treat people." Kathy seized the moment. "That's right. You're threatening us on our street, and if you don't back off, we won't hesitate to get law enforcement involved," she added, her own voice echoing the authority that the presence of the neighbor had inspired in her. The first man scoffed, but there was a noticeable shift in his posture. You don't know who you're messing with, he warned quietly, an edge creeping into his voice that was more calculated than before. Enough, the second man growled, taking a step forward which drew Kathy's attention back to him. We really don't want any trouble with you or the police. Just know that you have a choice. Get out of the way, and things might turn out just fine for you. With that vague warning hanging in the air, Kathy's heart descended into her stomach. What's that supposed to mean? She pressed. Let's just say, the first man interjected with a smirk, if you're not part of the solution, you might just be part of the problem. Realization washed over her, a wave of icy clarity followed by a sense of urgency. They were on the brink of something much larger than a mere property dispute. Whatever influence these men possessed was dangerous, and they were not here to simply apologize for a broken fence. Kathy felt the boy tremble next to her, and she instinctively placed a protective arm around him. We won't be intimidated, she stated, determination igniting within her. Suit yourself, the taller man said nonchalantly, trying to exude confidence. But just keep in mind, this neighborhood isn't what you thought it was. Before she could respond, the second man snarled under his breath, Let's go. And with that, the two men turned, striding away with unsettling ease, their silhouettes drawing longer against the fading sunlight. Kathy stood frozen in place, heart racing, the taste of dread lingering like ash in her mouth. Mom, are they coming back? The boy asked, voice trembling. I don't know, she replied honestly, glancing over her shoulder as they rounded the corner and disappeared from sight. But we need to prepare, just in case. The neighbor, still nearby, shook his head in disbelief. Not what you thought, he echoed, shaking off the lingering uncertainty. You'd better believe that's not an empty threat. We can't let them take over our streets. I have to do something, Kathy said, her resolve hardening. This wasn't just about defending her home anymore. It felt like a conflict for the very heart of their community. I can't sit here and wait for them to return. I need to find out what they're planning. The boy looked worried, his eyes darting around as if expecting one of the men to come back at any moment. But how, Mom? We'll find out together, Kathy reassured him, straightening up. First, we need to gather information and talk to the other neighbors. They won't stop at just my fence. They'll try to push others around too. Will you be careful? The boy asked earnestly, his innocent concern piercing through the heaviness in the air. I promise, she said, kneeling beside him and locking eyes with him, feeling the gravity of her commitment. We'll get through this. Together. As they began to walk back toward their home, Kathy lifted her chin defiantly, a simmering determination coursing through her veins. The danger was far from over, but she could feel the embers of resistance igniting within her. The fight for her neighborhood had only just begun, and she wasn't prepared to back down. They had been warned, but that only fueled her resolve. Whatever plans those men had, she promised herself they wouldn't succeed without a fight. As they walked back home, the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the street, a stark reminder of the encroaching night and the uncertainty it brought. Behind them, the tension of the confrontation still hung heavy in the air like the distant rumble of thunder, ominous and foreboding. Kathy squeezed the boy's shoulder gently, trying to reassure him. Let's start by talking to Mrs. Malone next door. She knows everyone on the block and might have heard something. Okay, but what if those men show up again? He asked, his voice quivering slightly. The idea of another confrontation made his stomach twist. Kathy's heart sank at the thought, but she pushed it aside, allowing determination to govern her thoughts. They won't come while we're gathering others. They want to implement their plans quietly. But if we all stand together, we can keep this neighborhood safe. As they approached Mrs. Malone's quaint, flower-adorned home, Kathy felt a surge of hope. The older woman had lived there for decades and had a wealth of knowledge about the community's history. She was renowned for organizing neighborhood meetings whenever trouble loomed on the horizon. Kathy knocked firmly on the door, bracing herself. Within moments, the door swung open, revealing Mrs. Malone, her silver hair framing a warm smile that flickered at the corners of her eyes. Kathy, what a pleasant surprise. And you've brought young Nathan with you. Mrs. Malone, we really need to talk. Kathy said, her tone urgent, stepping inside as fear washed over her. Nathan trailed closely behind, observing the interaction. Of course, dear. Is everything all right? Mrs. Malone's brow furrowed slightly, sensing the seriousness in Kathy's voice. After a brief introduction, Kathy wasted no time getting to the point. There are two men, muscular and intimidating, who just confronted me on the sidewalk. They have plans for the neighborhood, and I think we need to act before it's too late. Mrs. Malone's demeanor changed instantly. Her brow knitted together as she gestured them to a cozy living room filled with old photographs and an array of curious trinkets. Come in, sit down. You're right to be concerned. As they settled onto the soft, well-loved couch, Kathy quickly detailed the encounter, leaving nothing out. Nathan listened intently, his wide eyes dancing between the two adults, feeling the weight of their conversation. What exactly did they say? Mrs. Malone asked after Kathy finished, her expression serious. I think I might know who you're talking about. Just a few weeks ago, I noticed new faces around the neighborhood, and they were asking questions about property values and renovations. Why would they be interested in that? Kathy asked, fear knotting inside her stomach, replaced by the urgency of the situation. They might be involved in some sort of plan to flip the houses here for profit, Mrs. Malone replied, glancing at Nathan before continuing. This neighborhood has always been a tight-knit community, and we can't let anyone disrupt that. We need to let others know. Kathy nodded fervently. Exactly. If we come together as a community, we can push back. Mrs. Malone's eyes sparkled with determination. You're right, dear. A neighborhood watch meeting could be beneficial. If we can gather enough concerned residents, we can put a stop to whatever they're scheming. Can you organize it? We need to react quickly, Kathy said, an edge of urgency creeping into her voice. Leave it to me, Mrs. Malone replied, already considering the logistics. I'll print up flyers and get the word out on our neighborhood app. We'll call a meeting for tomorrow evening. Everyone needs to feel involved. Together, we can face this threat head-on. Nathan shifted nervously, raising a hesitant hand. Can I help too? His voice was small, yet earnest. The thought of getting involved ignited a spark within him. Oh, absolutely. Mrs. Malone beamed. You can help me distribute the flyers. It's important that everyone knows what's going on, and it's a perfect way for you to feel part of it too. As night fell, Kathy, Nathan, and Mrs. Malone worked together to draft flyers and craft messages. They filled the kitchen with their whispered conversations and shared purpose. Outside, the sky darkened, the stars peeking through the clouds like quiet observers of their determination. Mom, what if we're overreacting? Nathan asked after a while, his spirit wavering under the weight of uncertainty. What if they really are just looking to fix things? Kathy paused, her heart aching for her young son, wanting to shield him from the harshness of the world. It's okay to be nervous. But you heard what they said. Their threats mean something, and we need to protect our home. This is bigger than us, and it's good to prepare. His brow furrowed in contemplation. Nathan chewed his lip, finally nodding slowly. Okay, I trust you. As the night deepened, they finished their preparations, feeling the weight of the gathering storm just beyond their doors. Kathy knew that tomorrow would bring challenges, but she refused to back down. She would stand up for their neighborhood, for their home, and for Nathan. The next morning, with flyers in hand, they stepped out onto the street, ready to face their neighbors and rally the community. Every door they knocked on echoed with shared fears and collective determination. They were no longer just a single household. They were the beating heart of a neighborhood ready to stand together against impending darkness. But in the shadows, unknown eyes watched and calculated, plotting their next move. The muscular men weren't finished just yet. The storm had only just begun, and the battle for their community was far from over. As the sun rose the next morning, casting golden rays over the quiet street, the atmosphere was charged with the weight of anticipation and determination. Kathy and Nathan stepped out, armed with brightly colored flyers that proclaimed, "Neighborhood Watch Meeting tonight. Unite for our community." Door after door, They engaged neighbors, spreading the word with fervor. Each interaction was met with a blend of curiosity and concern. Some even shared their own eerie encounters with the men. Stories surfaced about strange conversations overheard, sightings of new faces lurking in the vicinity, and whispers of plans unfolding just beneath the surface of their cherished community. Kathy felt a swell of unwavering pride as families began to unite around a common purpose. Each door they knocked on seemed to generate not just interest, but a quiet solidarity among residents who'd never truly interacted outside of casual hellos. A sense of connection began to forge in the hearts of those they reached, and Kathy could see a flicker of hope igniting in the eyes of her neighbors as they rallied together. As the day progressed, Mrs. Malone took the reins, organizing a small pop-up meeting at the community park to gather feedback and opinions from those unable to attend the evening event. By mid-afternoon, they had gathered a diverse coalition of residents, ready to voice their concerns. Inspiration coursed through the air with every shared sentiment, and a sense of empowerment flourished. Yet, amid the camaraderie, an undercurrent of anxiety persisted. As the shadows lengthened and evening approached, the collective resolve wavered at the thought of the men's ominous warnings still hanging in the air. Despite her fears, Kathy was determined to keep the spirits high. "Tonight, we'll stand strong as one," she reassured Nathan as they navigated the crowd of neighbors setting up chairs and lights in the park. "I just hope they don't come," he said, stealing glances into the growing darkness as if expecting the men to emerge from the shadows. "They won't," Kathy replied, her confidence resolute despite her own unease. "Not if we're all together. We can face anything, as long as we unite." As dusk descended, the park began to fill with familiar faces, laughter mingling with the distant chirping of cicadas, creating a comforting hum. Mrs. Malone began to speak, her voice steady and warm, reminding everyone of the importance of community and vigilance. Kathy felt a swell of adrenaline surge through her, mingling with the growing anticipation rippling in the air. It was a tangible reminder that they were no longer isolating themselves. They were a united front. "Thank you all for coming," Mrs. Malone began, her voice carrying a gentle authority. "This is our chance to protect what we care about the most. Tonight, we share our stories, strategize what we might do if those men return, and most importantly, we support one another." Just as the meeting began to gain momentum, a rustle in the distance echoed through the gathering. The laughter faded, replaced by an uneasy silence that hinted at something more ominous closing in. Couples exchanged glances, children clung to their parents, and Kathy felt a chill rip through her despite the warmth of the evening. It came as no surprise when the atmosphere shifted again, and two figures emerged from the shadows. Those two men, the ones who had caused fear and doubt only the day before. Their hulking silhouettes passed the park entrance, and every heart seemed to simultaneously seize. "Looks like we have some company," Nathan whispered, clutching Kathy's hand tightly. She squeezed back, her gaze locked onto the men with resolve. "Stay close," she instructed, not letting panic cloud her judgment. "We will not let them intimidate us." The crowd rustled, a mixture of gasps and murmurs flooding the air, but Mrs. Malone's voice rose again, cutting through the tension. "Everyone, stay calm. We're here, united for a reason. Remember why we gathered. Don't let fear take over." The taller man stepped forward, smirking as he scanned the circle of determined neighbors. "Wow, what a lovely little gathering you have here. Isn't it sweet that you all think you can protect each other? How quaint." The second man crossed his arms, unlike the previous day, his confidence unwavering as he took a few strides further into the park, assessing their ranks. "We're just here to talk, really. We don't want any conflict. But you all should know that our plans don't involve you, unless you make them." An outburst of voices erupted from the crowd, residents standing their ground, refusing to be swayed by intimidation. "We'll decide what's best for our neighborhood," someone shouted, and applause followed, echoing throughout the park. Kathy felt her spirit rising as she caught sight of the fierce determination in her neighbor's eyes. This wasn't just her fight anymore. She had ignited something powerful in them all, a community rising to protect their home. "This is your last chance," the taller man said, his voice dropping to a chill. "Step aside, or we will make things very difficult for you." Kathy stepped forward, her heart pounding but her voice steady. "We will not be intimidated. We're proud of our neighborhood, and we'll protect it at any cost. You'll find that we're stronger together than you think." Mrs. Malone joined her side, and then other neighbors followed suit, standing shoulder to shoulder in solidarity. Finally, without breaking her gaze on the men, Kathy broke into a chant. Community, unity, strength. As others joined in, the chanting swelled, drowning out the whispers of doubt and fear. The men exchanged uneasy glances, the bravado in their stance wavering under the fierce challenge of an entire community rising together. "Enough," the second man finally roared, frustration boiling over. "We'll see you soon then," he growled before storming off with his accomplice in tow, shadows receding but lingering as a source of unease. The group erupted in cheers as they realized the power they had collectively harnessed. Relief flooded Kathy as she turned toward Nathan, who wore a beaming grin and bright eyes that hadn't just returned to life. They twinkled with pride. "We did it, Mom. They're gone," he exclaimed, and she knelt to embrace him, tears of gratitude prickling her eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. And we're going to keep doing it," she promised, the sense of community enveloping them both, the fear replaced by unity and courage. As the night continued, laughter returned, filled with enthusiasm and the bonds forged in shared purpose. They might have challenges ahead, but Kathy knew deep down that their actions tonight had marked the beginning of a stronger, more resilient community. The battle was just the first of many that they would face, but together, they would endure. And beneath the twinkling stars, amid the shadows, the conviction of their newfound strength blazed fiercely, a light that would refuse to be extinguished.